This is not a drill, I repeat, this is not a drill. We got a Legends of Runeterra update and things are looking good. Well, it's been a while since I could say that. So, after a long time, let's dive into what's happening in our favorite lore-expanding game. The truth is, throughout this year, Legends of Runeterra has been literally fighting for its life. As was stated in Riot's update on the entire company, Riot is not abandoning Legends of Runeterra. However, it became increasingly difficult to make the game profitable. Which, if you don't know, is most likely because the game is way too fair for free-to-play players. And so, Riot's main goal became to make sure that Legends of Runeterra doesn't lose too much money. They are still fine with the game not being profitable if people like it. But it needs to be within reason. And so, throughout 2024, that was reflected in a major switch of the game's focus. Instead of PvP, the game would focus on Path of Champions, which was their, at the time, still experimental game mode that actually made quite a few people start playing the game. And this is for one simple reason. As card games evolved, the PvP scene became more saturated, and the general audience, which is the biggest piece of the pie you want to aim for, started liking more of the casual gameplay. And so, because people still liked the card game genre, Slay the Spire became big as a result. And soon more games followed, such as Balatro or Inscription. So it made sense for Legends of Runeterra to tackle this trend too. And the crazy thing is, it worked. In last month's update, we learned that after Path of Champions got the big update, which included the new progression system called Constellations, which essentially allows you to upgrade champions so you can tackle harder difficulties, the game actually grew a bit. What also helped is that finally Legends of Runeterra got its own button in the League of Legends client. It may not be anything massive, but it was confirmed to bring a healthy amount of new players into the game, as well as bringing back some old players too. Now, what was kinda interesting about the last game dev update is that was the first time we got an update after Riot sat down and talked about all the budget cuts. And so you could feel that the team was not entirely upbeat. I mean, it would make sense for them to be a bit nervous. And they were just happy to get the support from the player base. I mean, in general, they were still tackling some big changes around the game. But now, with the new update, all that hesitation is gone. And you can immediately feel just how focused they are on the future of the game. So, let's dive into what we've learned. It begins with the introduction of Brian Koplek as the senior designer and Eric Shen as the executive producer. And straight from the bat, these two guys give us a rundown of what's happening. So, we are getting new adventures, new champions, battle passes are coming back, we are getting sped up game animations, and they are raising the level cap for both individual champions and your legend level. So, at first sight, you might notice that all of these updates are aiming at Path of Champions. So the focus on PvE is still there. But more than that, you may notice that all of these updates are shaping Path of Champions into a great standalone game. Or in other words, Path of Champions is becoming synonymous with Legends of Runeterra. And in that field specifically, the devs are nailing it. And slowly but surely, they are getting closer and closer towards their goal of having a great single-player game. So first, this update talks about nightmares. For those of you who don't know, nightmares are essentially your weekly difficulty affix, which changes the rules in adventures. Their goal with this is to give the player something challenging that changes to keep the game fresh. For the most part, these were a success, though most people agree everyone hates fighting Aurelian with these. However, despite there being the complaint that nightmares can quickly get out of hand, where the game design doesn't matter anymore and the only way to defeat them is to just break the game, Riot is still open-minded, and they want to see more data before they make any bigger changes. Because on the other side, there is also a lot of people who enjoy breaking the game, and they like the feeling of doing ridiculous things. Riot sees the value behind that, and overall, they like how nightmares mix up adventures. So, as always, as they keep pumping out more and more versions of these nightmares, they appreciate all the feedback. But on top of just giving us changing difficulties slapped onto adventures, we are also getting a new adventure. This one will have 2 difficulties, so both the casual players and the slightly more hardcore can enjoy it. And Riot hinted at the rewards from this adventure being aimed at building up your champion collection. So, as you can see, new PvE adventures are on their way, and the gameplay is still growing. Speaking of which, with the focus now being on PvE, Riot is no longer rooted by design that also has to work in PvP. Which means the first ever PvE exclusive champion is coming to Path of Champions. Of course, it doesn't mean that it has to be a Legends of Runeterra exclusive. It still can be a champion from League of Legends. In fact, for the sake of hyping this game up, it should be from League of Legends. But it just means that the new champion will not be usable in PvP. Which likely means that their mechanics will be something crazy that only works in adventures. Also, they might be giving us a champion from one of the regions that are not in PvP, for example, the Void, so we're totally getting Kog'Maw or something. And connected to that, not only are battle passes back, but also the rewards from these will help you unlock the new champion. My early guess was that the free pass would only give you some shards for the champion, but not enough to complete it from the free pass alone. I thought it was likely that that's what the paid pass would be for. But nope, later it gets confirmed that you will be able to 2-star the new champion from the free pass alone. Which is a great way to get some engagement with the battle pass rolling for all players. Anyway, unlike it is with the other games where battle passes usually don't have the best reputation, here, the players have actually been asking for more battle passes, because it was a great way to support the game. But after the budget cuts, they simply couldn't just shove in more and more cosmetics. So, a while ago, they took the battle pass down, so they could redesign the rewards to fit Path of Champions. And so now, after the changes, they are ready to get them out one after another. Also, as they mentioned, now the content is focused on Path of Champions, which means that the passes should be getting more traction. Because you are no longer mixing up rewards for PvP and PvE. Now, even your consumer audience is far more focused. Another cool thing is that just like it is for the new champion, all future battle passes will also complement the new content coming to the game. So expect these future battle passes to be unlocking more things for you, likely for free. But on top of that, the paid versions of these passes will shower you with a lot of fragments to cap off your favorite champions. The highlights we got here are 80 wild fragments, multiple star vessels, 1 major gemstone vessel, a lot of the classic loot boxes including a diamond vault, with all of this staying on the same price as the previous passes. With that said, Riot also confirmed that the average pass completion used to be about 60%, which to be honest is not a lot. I think TFT, for example, is sitting around something like 85%, but I would love to see some official numbers on that. Right, more dog from the company Riot Games. And so, Legends of Runeterra is speeding up the progression to be in a similar field. And speaking of speeding up, an amazing new feature is joining the game: speeding up game animations. With the new patch, this feature is getting into the beta phase, and it will allow you to speed up the animations up to 4 times. Honestly, this is a very common feature in other PvE card games, not to mention turn-based strategy games. And here, again, Slay the Spire is probably a good example. And so yet again, Legends of Runeterra is getting closer towards that polished single-player experience. Just keep in mind that here the sped-up animations are in beta, so there may be some visual glitches because the game was definitely not built with that in mind. Also, for obvious reasons, it will only work in Path of Champions. Next up, for everyone who capped off their levels, there will be more. Specifically, it seems like the Legend level will be raised to level 50. So there is more passive progression for just playing the game. And with that, at the end of the video, we get a confirmation that there are more adventures coming, with more relics to toy around with, Also more features, which is kinda vague and I have no idea what that means. Also more battle passes. And most importantly, new champions. Specifically, there will be 4 more new champions before the end of this year, which will be covered in the next dev update. And here, the teasing seems a bit too on the nose, right? We're getting 4 champions before the end of the year, and it will be covered in the next dev update. There is no way these champions are not linked to Arcane, right? Maybe not all 4 of them, but you know, as an example, Ambassa would probably make a good champion, right? Remember, we are not even talking about Runeterra exclusive champions here. They can be from League. I'm just saying it is likely something will be linked to Arcane for the celebrations. And with that, the update ends. And I just wanna say, that was pretty good. I had no expectations at all, and so something is always better than nothing, I guess. At first glance, it may not look that big, because even the video was 3 minutes, but the vibe and the direction we got here is just so much different from the last update. And that's because the team is talking to different people now. I mean, it took them a while to reshape their audience. That was the biggest challenge Legends of Runeterra had to face. They essentially had to abandon their PvP audience and build up an entirely new one. That is an incredibly difficult task, and it seems like somehow Legends of Runeterra is succeeding here. Now, we still don't know what degree of a success this is, but it's great to see that the game is in a shape where you know what the audience likes and you're happy to expand on it. Especially now that the audience stabilized a bit, it should be a lot easier to see the focus points. Personally, I always loved Legends of Runeterra for the exploration of the lore. It was always a great replacement for the Universe website. But now, since they can't really shower us with new cards, at least not as much as they did before, it is sad to see that side slow down. And yeah, what sucks about that the most is that now I have no idea where to get the material for the next MMO video.